The notification pinged on my phone while I was installing new shelving in our garage. My hands were covered in sawdust, and I almost ignored it. Almost. Let's spend the evening together. Unknown number. I stared at the screen, wiping my hands on my jeans. Had to be a wrong number or some spam. I'm Nick Casey, 38 years old, owner of a mid-sized logistics warehouse. Not exactly the type who gets mysterious invitations from strangers. I typed back, I think you have the wrong number. Actually, I love my wife. The response came so fast it made my stomach drop. You don't know about your wife yet? My throat went dry. I set down my drill and really looked at my phone. The area code was local. This wasn't spam. Who is this? I typed. Someone who thinks you deserve to know the truth. Check your email. I didn't want to check my email. I wanted to delete the conversation and pretend it never happened. But my fingers moved anyway, opening the Gmail app with shaking hands. The email had no subject line, just a video attachment. The timestamp showed it was recorded 3 days ago at 7:23 p.m. That was when Violet said she was working late on the Henderson marketing campaign. I pressed play, security camera footage, black and white, grainy, but clear enough, the hallway outside Violet's office building. And there was my wife, my beautiful, young, ambitious wife, walking hand in hand with someone, a man in an expensive suit. They stopped by the elevator, and he pulled her close, his hand on her waist, her face tilted up toward his like she was waiting to be kissed. The video was only 30 seconds long, but it felt like watching my entire marriage crumble in slow motion. My phone buzzed again. I'm sorry you had to see that. But you needed to know. If you want to talk, I'm available tonight. Public place. No games, no agenda. Just the truth you deserve. I sat down hard on my workbench, still staring at the screen. The woman in the video looked like Violet, moved like Violet, wore the blue dress Violet had worn to work 3 days ago. But it couldn't be Violet, because Violet loved me. We'd been married for 6 years. We had plans. Kids, a bigger house, maybe a vacation home by the lake. Except, when was the last time Violet and I had held hands like that? When was the last time she'd looked at me the way she was looking at that man in the elevator? I tried to remember the last few months, the late nights at work, the new wardrobe, expensive clothes that seemed too fancy for client meetings, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner, the sudden interest in working out, in doing her hair differently, in buying lingerie that I never got to see her wear. Shit, I whispered to the empty garage. Another text. My name is Rebecca Martinez. I'm the regional director at Violet's company. We need to talk. Rebecca Martinez. I knew that name. Violet had mentioned her before, always with a slight edge to her voice, calling her demanding and impossible to please. Now I was starting to understand why. I looked around the garage at the half-finished shelving project, at the tools scattered across my workbench, at the normal Saturday afternoon I'd been having before my world imploded. Everything looked exactly the same, but nothing would ever be the same again. Where? I typed back. Murphy's Bar on 5th Street. 1 hour. I knew Murphy's. It was the kind of place where you could have a conversation without being overheard, where the lighting was dim enough that you could fall apart without everyone watching. Perfect for learning that your marriage was a lie. I went inside to shower and change, moving like I was underwater. Violet was at her book club. Or at least, that's what she'd told me. Now I wondered if book club was code for something else entirely. In the bathroom mirror, I looked like exactly what I was, a guy who'd been blindsided. Brown hair that needed cutting, a stubble because I'd skipped shaving that morning, tired eyes that suddenly made sense. I'd been tired for months without knowing why. Now I knew. I'd been working overtime to save a marriage that was already over. Murphy's Bar was exactly as depressing as I'd expected. Dark wood, dim lighting, the smell of beer and disappointment. I spotted Rebecca immediately. A woman in her 40s, professionally dressed even on a Saturday, sitting alone in a corner booth with a cup of coffee. She looked up when I approached, and I saw something I wasn't expecting. Genuine sympathy. Nick? She asked, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. I know this can't be easy. How long? I asked, sliding into the booth across from her. No point in small talk. 6 weeks that I know of for certain. Probably longer. She pulled out her phone and showed me another photo. Violet and the man from the video getting into a car together. This was taken last Tuesday. The man is Greg Tolland. He's our VP of Client Relations. Greg Tolland. Violet had mentioned him too, but always casually. Greg thinks we should restructure the Peterson account. Greg suggested I take point on the Morrison presentation. Never, Greg and I are having an affair. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Rebecca's expression hardened. Because I don't tolerate this kind of behavior in my workplace. Greg is married too. His wife Cheryl is a friend of mine. And because... She paused, looking uncomfortable. Because they've been sloppy about it, other employees have noticed. It's affecting morale, and it's making the company look bad. So this is about protecting your business? Partly, yes. But also because you seem like a decent guy, and you don't deserve to be made a fool of. She slid a manila envelope across the table. There's more in here. Photos, timestamps, witness statements from other employees. I had a private investigator document everything. I stared at the envelope like it might bite me. What do you want me to do with this? Whatever you think is right. But Nick? She leaned forward. Don't let them make you think you're crazy. Don't let them gaslight you into believing this is somehow your fault. You deserve better than that. I opened the envelope. More photos. Violet and Greg at lunch, at a hotel bar, in the parking garage of her office building. In one photo, she was wearing the necklace I'd given her for our anniversary last year while she kissed another man. Jesus, I breathed. I'm sorry, Rebecca said quietly. I really am. I closed the envelope and looked up at her. What happens now? That's up to you. But if you're planning to confront them, you should know that Greg has a reputation for being vindictive. He doesn't like losing, and he doesn't like being embarrassed. And Violet? Rebecca's expression softened slightly. I think Violet got in over her head. Greg is persuasive, charming. He has a way of making people feel special, like they're the only person in the room. But that doesn't excuse what she's done to you. I sat there for a long moment, processing everything. 6 years of marriage, 6 years of building a life together, making plans, believing we were a team, and for at least 6 weeks, maybe longer, it had all been a lie. Thank you, I finally said, for telling me, for the evidence, for treating me like I matter. You do matter, Nick. Don't forget that. I drove home in a daze, the envelope sitting on the passenger seat like a loaded gun. Violet's car was in the driveway. Book club must have ended early, or maybe it had never started. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, still in her book club clothes, a casual sundress that looked anything but casual on her. She'd always been beautiful, my Violet. Long dark hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that could light up a room. That's what had attracted me to her in the first place, back when we met at a friend's party. She'd been the prettiest girl there, and somehow, impossibly, she'd chosen me. Now I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. Hey, babe, she said, not looking up from her phone. How was your day? Get those shelves finished? Not quite, I said, watching her face carefully. How was book club? Oh, you know, same drama as always. Sarah's still complaining about her divorce, and Jennifer thinks she knows everything about everything. She finally looked up, and for just a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes.
Yeah, we talked
Guilt?
to Vinny earlier.
Fear?
We're just very busy with
Why?
conflict stuff, so.
Just curious. What book are you reading again? The new thriller everyone's talking about. You wouldn't like it. She couldn't even remember the name of the fake book. 6 years of marriage, and she couldn't be bothered to come up with a convincing lie. I'm going to grab a beer, I said. Want anything? I'm fine. I went to the kitchen and opened a beer I didn't want, my hands surprisingly steady. In the living room, I could hear Violet texting someone, the soft tap-tap-tap of her fingers on the screen. Probably Greg, telling him how easy it was to fool her stupid husband. The envelope was still in my car, the evidence was all there, documented and undeniable. But looking at Violet now, curled up on our couch in our house, wearing the wedding ring I'd saved up 3 months to buy, I realized that having proof and knowing what to do with it were two completely different things. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Take your time processing this, but don't wait too long to decide what you want to do. These situations tend to get worse before they get better. I looked at Violet again, still absorbed in her phone, still living in a world where she thought I was too stupid or too trusting to figure out what was happening right under my nose. She was wrong about that, but she was about to find out just how wrong. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of cruel normalcy that makes betrayal feel even more surreal. Violet made coffee and scrambled eggs like she had every weekend for 6 years. She asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market. She complained about her mother calling too early. She was perfect at playing the role of loving wife, and I was starting to realize that's all it had been for months. A performance. I spent the morning in my workshop, supposedly organizing tools, but actually staring at the manila envelope I'd hidden behind a stack of lumber. Every few minutes, I'd pull out my phone and scroll through the photos Rebecca had given me, each one feeling like a punch to the gut. There was Violet laughing at something Greg was saying over lunch at Romano's. the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. There she was, getting into his BMW in the parking garage, her hand resting on his thigh. And there, the one that hurt the most, Violet and Greg walking out of the Marriott downtown at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon, her hair messed up, his tie loosened, both of them looking satisfied in a way that made me want to put my fist through the wall. "Nick?" Violet's voice from the doorway made me jump. I quickly shoved the photos back into the envelope. "You've been out here for hours. Everything okay?" I turned to look at my wife, really look at her. She was wearing yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked young and innocent and concerned, and if I didn't know better, I'd believe she actually cared. "Just thinking," I said. "About what?" She stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, the same perfume she'd been wearing in the hotel photos. "Work stuff. The Henderson contract is giving me headaches." "Oh." She seemed relieved. "Well, don't work yourself to death over it. You always figure things out." The casual dismissal stung more than it should have. When was the last time Violet had actually asked about my work? Really asked, not just made polite conversation. "Violet," I said carefully, "are you happy? I mean, with us?" Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or panic. "Of course I'm happy. Why would you ask that?" "I don't know. You seem distant lately, distracted." "I've just been stressed about work. You know how demanding Rebecca can be." The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that I almost admired her for it. Almost. "Right. Rebecca." Violet's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it automatically. I watched her face change. A small smile, the kind she used to save for me. She quickly turned the phone face down. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just Marissa. She wants to grab lunch tomorrow." Another lie. I was starting to lose count. "That's nice," I said. "You two haven't hung out in a while." "Yeah, well, you know how it is." I didn't know how it was, actually. I didn't know anything anymore. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and followed Violet to her office. I felt like a stalker, sitting in my truck across the street from her building, but I had to see it for myself. I had to know if the photos were telling the whole truth. At 11:47 a.m., Greg Tolland walked out of the building and got into a silver BMW parked in the executive section. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, well-dressed, the kind of confident good looks that probably made women forget they were married. At 11:52, Violet walked out and got into the passenger seat. They didn't go to a restaurant. They went to the Marriott. I sat in the hotel parking lot for 2 hours, feeling like the world's biggest fool. When they finally came out, Violet's lipstick was gone and Greg's hair was messed up. They kissed goodbye in broad daylight, like they didn't care who saw them, like they knew I'd never find out. That night, Violet came home with takeout from my favorite Chinese place and a story about having lunch with a potential client. She asked about my day with such convincing concern that I almost told her the truth. Almost said, "I spent the day watching my wife cheat on me, thanks for asking." Instead, I said, "Fine, just the usual warehouse stuff." "Poor baby, you work so hard." She kissed my cheek, and I smelled Greg's cologne on her skin. Tuesday, I called Rebecca. "I need to know everything," I said. "How long this has really been going on, how serious it is, what other people know, everything." "Can you meet me for lunch? Same place as Saturday?" "I'll be there." This time, Rebecca had a thick folder waiting for me. "I wasn't completely honest with you on Saturday," she said without preamble. I said 6 weeks, but it's been longer. Much longer. "How much longer?" The investigator I hired found evidence going back 4 months, maybe more. 4 months. I thought about the last 4 months of my marriage. The gradual distance, the excuses, the way Violet had started working out and buying new clothes, the way she'd stopped initiating sex, stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped looking at me like I was someone she was happy to come home to. "There's something else," Rebecca continued. "Greg has done this before. 3 times that I know of, with 3 different employees. He has a pattern. He targets married women, usually younger ones who are ambitious and looking for advancement. He promises them career opportunities, makes them feel special, then moves on when he gets bored. What happened to the other women? 2 of them quit. 1 transferred to our Denver office. All 3 marriages ended in divorce." I felt sick. "So Violet is just... what, his latest conquest?" "I think so, yes. But Nick, there's something else you need to know. Violet isn't just having an affair with Greg. She's been helping him manipulate the promotion system. She's been feeding him information about other employees, helping him decide who gets ahead and who gets passed over. She's become his accomplice." The folder contained emails, Dozens of them, exchanged between Violet and Greg over the past 4 months. Most were professional on the surface, but reading between the lines, the pattern was clear. Violet would tell Greg about a coworker's personal problems or professional mistakes, and within days, that person would find themselves demoted or passed over for advancement. "How did you get these?" I asked. "IT audit. We do them randomly, and Greg's came up last month. When I saw the pattern of communication with Violet, I dug deeper." Rebecca's expression was grim. "They've been using company resources to conduct their affair, and they've been using their relationship to manipulate personnel decisions. Both of those are fireable offenses." "Are you going to fire them?" "I'm building a case, but I wanted to talk to you first, because once I move forward, this is going to become very public very quickly. Greg will fight it, and he'll probably try to blame everything on Violet. You should be prepared for that." I stared at the emails, at the evidence of my wife's betrayal laid out in black and white. It wasn't just adultery, it was corruption, manipulation, a complete abandonment of every value I thought she had. "There's one more thing," Rebecca said quietly. She handed me a printed email dated 3 weeks ago. "This one is about you." I read it twice before the words sank in. "Greg, Nick is getting suspicious. He asked about my late nights again, and I think he might be checking my phone. We need to be more careful. Maybe it's time to tell him I want a divorce." I could say I've outgrown him, that I need someone more ambitious. He'd probably believe it. He's always been insecure about me being out of his league. Greg's response was worse. "Don't rush it. I'm not ready to leave Cheryl yet, and you're still useful at the office. Keep him happy for now. Buy him a present or something. Men are simple." I set the paper down with shaking hands. "She's planning to divorce me." "It looks that way. And he's not even planning to leave his wife for her." "No, I don't think he ever was." I sat back in the booth, feeling hollowed out. It was one thing to discover your wife was cheating. It was another to discover she thought you were too stupid and insecure to figure it out. It was something else entirely to discover she was actively planning to destroy your life while her lover laughed about how easy you were to manipulate. "What would you do?" I asked Rebecca. "If you were me?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I'd make sure they both got exactly what they deserved, but I'd be smart about it. Emotional decisions lead to mistakes, and mistakes lead to regrets." "What does that mean?" "It means you have evidence of workplace misconduct, adultery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have documentation of their entire relationship. You have proof that they've been using company resources for personal gain." She leaned forward. "You have everything you need to destroy them both, professionally and personally. The question is, are you angry enough to do it?" I thought about Violet kissing me goodbye that morning, telling me she loved me while she planned to divorce me. I thought about Greg's email calling me simple, like I was some kind of pet that could be managed with treats and head pats. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." The first person I called was my best friend Jules. We'd known each other since high school, and he was the only person I trusted to help me think through what I was about to do. "Jesus Christ, Nick," he said after I'd explained everything. "I mean, I knew Violet was ambitious, but this is some next-level sociopath shit." We were sitting in his kitchen, drinking beer and looking at the evidence spread across his dining table. Jules owned a small construction company, and he had the kind of practical, no-nonsense approach to problems that I needed right now. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "Please tell me you're not just going to confront her and hope she comes clean." "I'm past that," I said. "She's had months to come clean. She's chosen to lie to my face every single day instead." "Good. So what are we doing?" I'd been thinking about that for 2 days. "I want to hit them where it hurts most. Greg cares about his reputation and his career. Violet cares about her image and her social status. I want to take both of those things away from them." "I'm listening." "Rebecca is going to file a formal complaint with HR about their workplace misconduct. That should get them both fired, or at least suspended pending investigation. But I want to do more than that. I want everyone to know what kind of people they really are." Jules grinned. "Now you're talking. What do you need from me?" "Help, and maybe some of your construction crew, if they're up for a little creative problem solving." "Brother, my guys would love to help a man get revenge on his cheating wife. Half of them have been through the same thing." The next day, I started phase 1 of what Jules had dubbed Operation Homewrecker. I created a fake social media account and began documenting Violet and Greg's affair in real time. Photos of them entering and leaving the hotel, screenshots of their public interactions on company social media, a timeline of Violet's lies cross-referenced with her actual whereabouts. I wasn't planning to post any of it yet, that would come later, but I wanted everything documented, time-stamped, and ready to go. Phase 2 involved Rebecca. She filed her HR complaint on Thursday morning, citing workplace misconduct, misuse of company resources, and potential fraud. By Thursday afternoon, both Violet and Greg had been called into separate meetings with HR and the company's legal team. Violet came home that night looking shaken. "How was your day?" I asked, playing dumb. "Terrible. There's some kind of investigation at work. HR is asking all these questions about Greg and me like they think we're doing something inappropriate." "Are you?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Of course not. But you know how office gossip is. Someone probably saw us talking and made up some story about it." She sat down next to me on the couch, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married. Young, vulnerable, needing my support. "I might need a lawyer, Nick. This could affect my career." The audacity of it took my breath away. She was still lying, even when her world was falling apart. Even when she needed my help, she couldn't bring herself to tell me the truth. "Of course," I said, "whatever you need." That weekend, while Violet was supposedly at her sister's house, another lie, I'd called her sister, I met with Rebecca and Cheryl Tolland, Greg's wife. Cheryl was nothing like I'd expected. She was older than Violet, maybe mid-40s, with graying hair and tired eyes. But she had a steel in her voice that reminded me of Rebecca. "I've known about Greg's affairs for years," she said matter-of-factly. "This isn't his first, and it probably won't be his last. But this time is different." "How?" I asked. "Because this time, I have evidence. And this time, I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen for the sake of keeping our marriage together." Rebecca had put us in touch, and Cheryl had brought her own folder of evidence. Bank statements showing charges at hotels and restaurants, credit card bills for jewelry and flowers that she'd never received, phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to Violet's number. "I hired my own investigator 3 months ago," Cheryl explained. "I was planning to file for divorce anyway, but when Rebecca told me about the workplace misconduct angle, I realized we could do more damage if we coordinated our efforts." "What are you thinking?" I asked. "I'm thinking Greg has been using our joint credit cards to fund his affair with your wife. That's theft. I'm thinking he's been lying on his taxes about business expenses that were actually personal expenses related to his affairs. That's fraud. And I'm thinking that when all of this comes out at the same time, the workplace investigation, the divorce proceedings, and the criminal charges, it's going to destroy him completely." I looked at this woman who'd been betrayed just as thoroughly as I had, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. "What about Violet?" I asked. "What about her?" Cheryl's voice was cold. She knew Greg was married. She chose to pursue a relationship with him anyway. She used that relationship to advance her career and hurt other people. As far as I'm concerned, whatever happens to her is what she deserves. Rebecca nodded. "The HR investigation is going to take about 2 weeks. After that, they'll make their decision about termination. But by then, if we do this right, termination will be the least of their problems." "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Keep playing dumb," Rebecca said. "Let Violet think you believe her lies. We need her to feel secure so she doesn't start covering her tracks or preparing for a legal battle." "And document everything," Cheryl added. "Every lie she tells you, every excuse she makes, every time she comes home smelling like my husband's cologne. We're going to need all of it." That night, I lay in bed next to my wife, listening to her breathe and thinking about how completely I'd misjudged her. For 6 years, I'd thought I was married to someone kind, honest, and loyal. Instead, I'd been married to someone who could lie to my face while planning to destroy my life, someone who could manipulate her coworkers' careers for personal gain, someone who could carry on an affair with a married man and feel no guilt about the families she was helping to tear apart. The woman sleeping next to me was a stranger, and strangers, I was learning, deserved no loyalty. Monday morning brought the first crack in Violet's composure. She came home from work pale and shaky, barely able to eat the dinner I'd made. "They suspended Greg," she said finally, pending the outcome of the investigation. "I'm sorry," I said, and I was surprised to find that part of me actually meant it. Not sorry for Greg, but sorry for the woman I'd thought I'd married, the one who would have been horrified by this situation instead of terrified of being caught. "What if they fire me too?" she asked. "What if this ruins my career?" "Then we'll figure it out," I said. "We're a team, remember?" That night, after Emily fell asleep exhausted from crying, I sat in the dark living room with my laptop open. The evidence folder stared back at me. Hundreds of photos, hotel receipts, text threads spanning 8 months. Greg's smug face in selfies with my wife. Her laughter and voice notes meant for him. The necklace I'd never seen, bought on my credit card for their anniversary. I closed the laptop and went to bed beside her. She reached for me in her sleep, murmuring my name like nothing had changed. I lay awake until dawn, feeling the fracture widen inside my chest. The next weeks were a performance worthy of an Oscar. I cooked her favorite meals, left notes on the bathroom mirror, planned a surprise weekend getaway to the lake house we'd rented early in our marriage. She blossomed under the attention, guilt making her sweeter, more attentive. She initiated sex more often, clung tighter, as if physical closeness could erase the emotional distance she'd created. I smiled through all of it. At work, I quietly gathered documentation, joint account statements showing unexplained withdrawals, mileage logs that didn't match her late meetings, calendar invites she'd deleted, but I recovered from the cloud backup. I met with a divorce attorney recommended by a colleague, discreet, shark-like, specializing in high-asset cases. We mapped strategy. Fault-based divorce in our state meant adultery could impact alimony and asset division. Emily noticed none of it. She was too busy deleting messages and convincing herself the danger had passed. The breaking point came on a Thursday in early November. I came home early, claiming a canceled site visit. Emily was in the shower, phone on the kitchen counter, unlocked for once. A notification flashed. Greg. Miss you already. Same time next week? Room 412 is available. I took photos of the screen, then I opened their thread and scrolled upward. Months of planning. Pet names. Explicit photos I wished I could unsee. Plans to leave me once Greg's divorce finalized. Discussions about how much she could get in settlement. I forwarded everything to my attorney, then placed the phone exactly as I'd found it. That evening, I cooked steak and opened the expensive cab we'd been saving for our anniversary. Emily came downstairs in the black dress she'd worn on our 5th date, hair curled, makeup perfect. You're spoiling me, she laughed, kissing my cheek. We deserve it, I said. Over dinner, I steered conversation to the future. Kids, travel, maybe selling the house and moving closer to the coast. She played along beautifully, eyes shining with what I now recognized as relief. She thought she'd won. After dessert, I poured us both another glass and led her to the couch. Em, I said softly, there's something I need to show you. Her smile faltered. What? I opened my laptop on the coffee table, turned it toward her. The screen filled with the hotel booking confirmation for next Thursday. Her name, Greg's credit card, the same downtown Marriott they'd used for months. She went white. Nick, I clicked to the next slide, photos of them entering the hotel lobby, time-stamped, then the text thread, then the necklace receipt. She started shaking her head. This isn't... You don't understand? I understand perfectly, I said. My voice was calm, almost gentle. 8 months, 47 hotel visits, $12,000 in gifts, meals, trips, all while telling me you were working late or at yoga or with your sister. Tears filled her eyes. I was going to end it, I swear. You were going to wait until his divorce was final and I'd been bled dry in settlement. No, that was just talk. Stupid, angry talk when we fought about you. I leaned forward. Here's what happens next, Emily. Tomorrow morning, you'll be served with divorce papers citing adultery. The evidence is comprehensive. Your affair partner's wife will receive the same packet. Greg's been promising her reconciliation while booking rooms with you. She gasped. You wouldn't. I already did. Certified mail, delivered today. She started sobbing, curling into herself. Please, Nick. We can go to counseling. I'll quit my job, cut contact, anything. You had 8 months to choose anything. You chose lies. I stood. You have until Sunday to move out. I've changed the locks tomorrow anyway. Your clothes and personal items can stay in the guest room until you arrange pickup. Where am I supposed to go? That's no longer my concern. She reached for me, desperate. I love you. I got scared, I got stupid, but I love you. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve and felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just the hollow space where love used to live. You loved the version of me that didn't know the truth, I said. That version is gone. I gently removed her hand and walked upstairs. She slept on the couch that night. I heard her crying until dawn. Saturday, her sister arrived with a U-Haul. They loaded boxes in silence while I worked in the garage. Emily tried one last time as she carried out the last suitcase. I'll wait for you, she whispered at the door. However long it takes. I met her eyes. Don't. The divorce moved quickly after that. Emily's attorney advised settling once they saw the evidence. Texts, photos, financial trails, airtight. She received minimal alimony, 6 months, reduced because of fault. No claim on the house or my retirement accounts. Greg's wife took him for everything. House, custody, most of his bonus structure. He moved into a studio apartment and changed firms after the scandal spread through industry channels. Emily moved 3 hours away to live with her parents. Last I heard through mutual friends, she was working retail, attending therapy, and had deleted all social media. Some nights, apparently, she drove past our old neighborhood just to look at the house. I sold it 6 months later. Too many ghosts in the walls. Bought a smaller place downtown with a rooftop deck and a view of the river. Started running again, took a woodworking class, dated a woman named Claire who laughed at my terrible jokes and never once mentioned being unhappy. Some evenings, I sit on the deck with a beer and watch the lights reflect on the water. I think about the man who almost believed close but inappropriate was the whole truth. I'm grateful he's gone. The woman I married existed once. Maybe she still does somewhere beneath the damage. But she's not my responsibility anymore. I chose truth over comfort. It hurt like hell. But the peace on the other side, quiet mornings, honest conversations with myself, the freedom to build something real, is worth every scar. Sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like walking away and never looking back. And that's okay. I'm okay. Better than okay. I'm free. 2 weeks later, Rebecca called with news that surprised no one. Both Violet and Greg had been terminated for workplace misconduct. Violet came home that Friday afternoon looking like she'd aged 5 years in one day. "They fired me," she said, slumping onto the couch. "They said I violated company policy regarding workplace relationships and misuse of company resources." "I'm so sorry, baby," I said, sitting down next to her. "That's terrible. They're making it sound like Greg and I were having some kind of affair, like we were using company money for personal things." She looked at me with desperate eyes. "You believe me, don't you? You know I would never do something like that?" I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, still young, still capable of making me feel things I didn't want to feel. But she was also still lying to me, even now, even when her world was falling apart and I was the only person left who might stand by her. "Violet," I said gently, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course." "Are you having an affair with Greg Tolland?" The question hung in the air between us like a loaded gun. I watched her face cycle through emotions, surprise, fear, calculation, and finally, resignation. "Nick," she started, but I held up my hand. "Before you answer, I want you to know that I already know the truth. I've seen the photos, read the emails, talked to witnesses. I know about the hotel meetings, the stolen credit card charges, the way you've been manipulating personnel decisions. I know about your plan to divorce me. I know everything." Her face went white. "How? Does it matter? The question is, are you going to keep lying to me, or are you finally going to tell me the truth?" For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then something shifted in her expression, the mask slipping away, revealing someone I didn't recognize. "Fine," she said, her voice suddenly cold. "Yes, I'm having an affair with Greg. Yes, we've been using company resources. And yes, I was planning to divorce you." The admission hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting it. "Why?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Why do you think, Nick? Look at yourself. Look at your life. You own a warehouse. You drive a 10-year-old truck. You think dinner at Applebee's is a special occasion. I'm 34 years old, and I'm beautiful, and I'm smart, and I deserve better than this." "Better than what? Better than someone who loves you? Better than someone who's content with mediocrity?" Her voice was rising now, months of hidden resentment spilling out. "Do you know what it's like to be married to someone with no ambition? Someone who's perfectly happy staying in the same small town, doing the same small job, living the same small life forever? I thought you were happy with our life." "I was never happy with our life. I was settling for our life. There's a difference." I felt something break inside my chest. Not my heart exactly, but something deeper. The last remnant of the man who'd believed his wife loved him. And Greg? What does he offer that I don't? Everything. Success, sophistication, connections. A future that's bigger than this. She gestured around our living room dismissively. "Greg understands what I'm capable of. He sees my potential. He's married, Violet. He's using you." "No, he's not. He's going to leave Cheryl. We're going to start a new life together." I almost felt sorry for her then. Almost. "Violet," I said quietly, "Greg isn't going to leave his wife. He's told other people that you're just a temporary distraction. He's called you useful. He's laughed about how easy it is to manipulate me through you. You're lying." I pulled out my phone and showed her the email thread Rebecca had given me. I watched her face as she read Greg's messages, watched the color drain from her cheeks as she realized how completely she'd been played. "This isn't real," she whispered. "You faked this." "Call him," I said. "Ask him if he's planning to leave his wife for you. Ask him if he loves you. Ask him what his long-term plans are." She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed Greg's number. I could hear it ringing, could hear when it went to voicemail. "Greg, it's me. Call me back. Please, we need to talk." She tried 3 more times. Each call went straight to voicemail. "He's probably just busy," she said, but her voice was hollow. "Violet, Greg was served with divorce papers this morning. His wife is taking him for everything he's worth, and she's pressing criminal charges for fraud and theft. He's not going to call you back because he's probably talking to lawyers right now, trying to figure out how to save himself." "Criminal charges?" "He used his joint credit cards to pay for your hotel rooms. That's theft. He claimed your dinners as business expenses on his taxes. That's fraud. And now that Cheryl has documentation of everything, he's looking at serious jail time." Violet sank back into the couch, her phone falling from her hands. "This can't be happening." "It is happening, and it's going to get worse." "What do you mean?" I pulled out my laptop and opened the social media account I'd created. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to post everything, every photo, every email, every lie you've told me over the past 4 months. I'm going to tag your friends, your family, your former coworkers. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are." "You can't do that." "I can, and I will. Unless what? Unless you leave. Tonight. Pack your things and get out of my house, and I'll keep the photos private. Stay, and I'll make sure your betrayal becomes public knowledge." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're not the man I married." "No," I agreed. "The man you married would have begged you to stay, would have blamed himself for your affair, would have spent years trying to win you back. But that man was a fool. That man thought you were someone worth fighting for. And now? Now I know better." Violet sat in silence for a long time, and I could almost see her calculating her options. Finally, she looked up at me with something like respect in her eyes. "How long have you known?" 3 weeks? "And you've been planning this the whole time?" "Every detail." "I underestimated you." "Yes, you did." She stood up slowly, like an old woman. "I'll need time to pack." "You have 2 hours." "And then?" "And then I never want to see you again." She nodded and walked toward the stairs. At the bottom step, she turned back. "For what it's worth, Nick, I am sorry. Not for the affair, but for not being honest about what I wanted. For making you think you weren't enough when the truth is, I was never enough for you." It was the first true thing she'd said to me in months, and somehow that made it hurt worse than all the lies. 2 hours later, I watched her load her car with suitcases and boxes. She didn't ask where she was going to stay, and I didn't ask. It wasn't my problem anymore. Before she drove away, she rolled down her window. "What are you going to do now?" "Live my life," I said. "The one I should have been living all along." She nodded and drove off into the night, taking 6 years of my life with her. I stood in my driveway for a long time after her taillights disappeared, feeling empty but not sad. Relieved, maybe. Free, definitely. My phone buzzed with a text from Jules. "How did it go?" "It's over," I typed back. "Good. Want to grab a beer?" "Yeah, I think I do." 3 months later, I was sitting in Murphy's bar with Rebecca and Jules, reading the local newspaper's coverage of Greg Tolland's sentencing. 18 months in minimum security prison for fraud and theft, plus restitution to his wife and the IRS. His career was over, his reputation destroyed, his marriage dissolved. "I almost feel sorry for him," Rebecca said, but she was smiling as she said it. "I don't," Jules replied. "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." I folded the newspaper and looked around the bar. It was the same place where Rebecca had first told me the truth about my marriage, but everything felt different now, lighter somehow. "Any word from Violet?" Rebecca asked. "She moved back in with her parents," I said. "Last I heard, she was working at a call center and trying to get into grad school." "Think she learned her lesson?" "I think she learned that actions have consequences. Whether that's the same thing, I don't know." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a second, my heart jumped. But it wasn't Violet. "Mr. Casey, this is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. We're doing a follow-up story on the Tolland case and would like to interview you about workplace affairs and their impact on families. Would you be interested?" I showed the text to Jules and Rebecca. "What do you think?" "I think you've said everything you need to say," Rebecca replied. "Some stories are better left private." "I agree," Jules added. "You got your revenge, you got your life back, and you didn't have to become someone you'd hate in the process. That's a win in my book." I deleted the text without responding. They were right. I'd said everything I needed to say, done everything I needed to do. The rest was just noise. 6 months after that, I was installing new shelves in my garage when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Violet's number, and for a moment, I considered not answering. But curiosity won out. "Hello, Nick." Her voice was different, smaller, more uncertain than I remembered. "Violet, how are you?" I'm okay. I wanted to call because I heard you were selling the house." "I am. Too many memories." "Good memories or bad memories?" "Both. That's the problem." She was quiet for a moment. "I also heard you're dating someone." "I am." Her name was Sarah, and she was a teacher at the local elementary school. She was kind and honest, and thought my warehouse was practical rather than embarrassing. She was nothing like Violet, which was exactly what I needed. "Is it serious?" "It might be." "Good. I'm glad you're happy." "Are you? Happy, I mean?" "I'm working on it. Therapy helps, and I'm back in school, getting my master's in social work." "That's good, Violet. I'm proud of you for that." "Nick, I need to say something to you, and I need you to let me finish before you hang up." "Okay. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. But I need you to know that I understand now what I threw away. You were a good husband, and you deserved better than what I gave you. The affair, the lies, the way I made you feel like you weren't enough. None of that was about you. It was about me being too immature and selfish to appreciate what I had. I leaned against my workbench, listening to my ex-wife apologize for destroying our marriage. And I realized I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction. Just nothing. I also need you to know," she continued, "that what you did, the way you handled everything, it taught me something important about consequences, about how the choices we make affect other people. I hated you for it at the time, but now I understand that you were just protecting yourself, and you had every right to do that." "Thank you for saying that," I said, and I meant it. Are we okay? I mean, can we be civil if we run into each other?" "We're okay, Violet. I hope you find what you're looking for." "I hope I already have. Goodbye, Nick." "Goodbye." I hung up and went back to installing my shelves. In 2 weeks, I'd be moving to a new house across town, bigger yard, better neighborhood, closer to Sarah's school, a fresh start in every sense. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How's the packing going? Need help?" "Almost done," I typed back. "Dinner tonight?" "Can't wait. Love you." "Love you too." I set down my phone and looked around the garage one last time. This was where it had all started, where I'd gotten that first text, where I'd learned that my marriage was a lie, where I'd begun planning my revenge. But it was also where I'd learned that I was stronger than I'd thought, smarter than people gave me credit for, and worthy of better than what I'd been settling for. Violet had been wrong about a lot of things, but she'd been right about one. I wasn't the same man she'd married. That man would have forgiven her, taken her back, spent years trying to rebuild trust that could never really be restored. This man knew better. This man had learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's simply refusing to let someone else's choices define your worth. I finished installing the shelves, packed up my tools, and drove across town to have dinner with a woman who thought I was exactly enough, just as I was. And for the first time in years, I believed her.